I think this is recording. So this is going to be pretty short, but I had made like the videos about what I call the minor crisis and how that goes into what I call the gerontophile agenda, which I have a minor crisis playlist and the gerontophile agenda / gerontophiles are annoying playlist, and then I think that was it. I guess it could even go to my projective heroism playlist that I made years ago, but anywho, I talked about all of the issues with the 18 obsession really for years, but I see how like that's also a big thing in the minor crisis. And what else was it? It was something else. Oh yeah, so pretty much TikTok is definitely not a place for messaging people, which I mean I guess that makes sense. I noticed that like it's really hard to talk to people about anything. Like if you're talking to other people in bad situations, there's so many filters for if you're talking about unaliving yourself, if you're talking about abuse, even if you like try to code spell, it sees it. And then also another thing with the minor crisis, because apparently if somebody's a teenager who's 18 plus, then it really makes a difference. But I think even with Instagram, but Instagram doesn't really like flag your messages and tell you that they're flagging it. But with TikTok, if you say things like 15, 17, stuff like that too much, or if you're talking about abuse too much, apparently it'll just after a while tell you that you can't talk to this person. They'll also block your messages. Like someone will be trying to tell me something and then it won't go through. They'll be trying to tell me about something that happened to them even when they were younger. It won't go through because it'll get banned. And keep in mind, this is all really a part of the digital ID. For one, the idea of what is and isn't a child is very biased. Technically, no teenager is a child, and there isn't really much of a difference if someone is being harmed at 18 or 17, but they need an excuse for why they wanted to push out the digital ID for the B system. So, if you're talking to somebody, they can just eventually tell you, well, And then it's also really risky because if you really think about it, well, they're flagging your messages because they're accusing you and the other person of something. And it even makes me think about how a lawyer was talking about something where like somebody was giving Clyde Code some information to try to like put things together for court files for a court case or something, and he didn't know because it was only recently even announced that since this situation that something about like laws where you can't share court information with a third party, and the dude didn't know it's a third party, and also Clyde reported him anyways for whatever the details were that he was uploading to try to get information together for a court case. And then the FBI got involved, and then it just made things worse. And now he also got in trouble just simply for sharing with a third party, even though he didn't know it was a third party. And one of the things about it is that when I was younger, I used to like researching the B system and all that stuff, which I think I want to talk more about in a video that's going to be titled "Did I Just Become an Atheist in 6 Months?" But I'm not going to go into all that here. I used to like researching all that stuff since I was I guess like 6 more so 7, as I talk about all the time, especially 10. And I kind of stopped caring about that stuff, I would say 6 months or so ago. But I kind of stopped really liking the revelation stuff and like around 2024 or 2023. Well, no, 2024, I would say. I could probably even say last year. But like I started to think about it because it's like the beast system is really just like if the whole world is a cash for kids system / human cash cow system placement. As someone who spent my whole life being treated like crap till this day, and also spent a little while locked up in the cash for kids system, and being told even in that Jim Crow self-confined placement that I was in before, a little before escaping my abuse situation, being told that I can't be around the normal people and I'm not allowed to talk to the normal kids and I can't talk to anybody in general because I may be trying to ask for help, as if anybody even cares and there is any help, stuff like that. The idea of the abuse system and constantly being under surveillance, it just makes me feel worse. And a lot of people already have schizo and stuff like that from CPTSD and constantly being treated like crap and abused their whole life. I can only imagine how many people are going to end up with that once the abuse system fully rolls out. But yeah, pretty much, if you're talking about age too much or anything that I guess can get flagged, like, it'll get flagged pretty much. But I guess, I don't know. Even prior to this, because I typically would talk on other sites, I never talked on TikTok before. I already kind of felt like, I already wondered, if TikTok was even a good site for chatting, and evidently it's not. Like, I remember I had somebody trying to tell me something once, and everything was getting flagged, and it was saying this message is not visible, and it'll say, we flag this, and then it'll flag stuff because you won't even know why sometimes. And then if you say 18 too much, I guess, I think it also has, I don't even know what to say. It's just really crazy. And then one of the worst things about it is that also means that, of course, if they're able to flag literally everything that's being sent from both parties, then that means that they're reading everything. So it's definitely not a safe place to talk about anything. I even seen an article a couple of days ago about how Instagram now has access to DMs as if they didn't before. I don't know. People kind of get a little weird once they admit it openly, but they always had access to DMs. Okay, wait a minute. Crap. Some dude driving by is looking at me. I'm probably gonna have to move anyways. But anywho, one of the bad things about it is that it kind of tells people who have already been pretty much trapped or felt trapped their whole life that we're about to get more trapped. And I know people are always talking about America/Babylon and how the beast system and how a lot of things are going to be worse here and how it's going to turn into a regime and all that. And it kind of makes me think about how even up until early 2025, I never understood why people didn't like hearing that stuff like this would happen, or why people don't want to believe that an NWO would happen. Or, well, I didn't even mean to say NWO. I meant to say One World Religion, but that's a part of the NWO. But I really meant to say One World Religion. I didn't understand why people would get upset with hearing that, everything's already planned out. There's already a beginning and an end for the world, and everybody planned out. And that, what was the other thing with that? It was something else that I can't remember. And pretty much hearing that, the world would end. But honestly, I really get it now. It's kind of just like how a lot of people in Gen Z are being told that, they already don't have a future because of AI and economic collapse and stuff that shouldn't be catching anybody by surprise. But I guess since now it's being admitted openly as a part of the what's that thing called, universal law, they have to tell you what they're doing before they do it. And if we don't rebel, we agree. And the other thing with that's called predictive programming too. This isn't new news, but people are acting like it's new. People are like, well, now it's confirmed, or it's somewhat confirmed, so now I believe it. Just like with some of the traffic and stuff that people really don't see for what it is. But anywho, so pretty much, wait a minute, I can't even see if this is still recording. Okay, so pretty much, it's just like that. I actually get why people are now feeling some type of way about it, because it's it is problematic and upsetting being told that you're not going to be able to have a future, and that pretty much the world is about to change and end, and the new world order is already coming out. And the digital ID and the fake minor crisis bullcrap and the like, and then like even the debate about what is and isn't a kid, that's always going to be a big thing when it comes to the minor crisis agenda that actually makes it very obviously false. But yeah, and then what else goes in with that? I mean, crap, it even makes you think back to, I think I used this as a thumbnail for one of my gerontophile agenda videos, or maybe even the playlist, where somebody had shared a Twitter post where somebody was like, if you're 18 or 19 or older and you're talking to minors, then you're weird or you're a pedo or something like that. And then the person is like, so I'm not supposed to talk to my cousin anymore? And it's actually kind of crazy how people are like so caught up in this minor stuff, even to the extent that, as I always mention, there's so many ideas going around that an 18-year-old can't be friends with a 17-year-old, but a 17-year-old or 18-year-old can date somebody who's 35. And that's even goes into how I constantly mention that laws don't make things right, because as a lot of people seem to not know for whatever reason, the age of consent has always been well below 18. It's generally 14 to 16 worldwide. And as I also always mention, age of consent, age of majority, legal adult, all those are three totally separate things that don't have as much to do with each other as people think it does. When I think about 18, I think about supposedly being able to leave an abusive family system or parent and not be forced back, which that's barely even true, but you're not supposed to be able to be locked up and forced back for running away. That's one thing I really think of with that. And then you're a federal minor till 25. And then I always talk about how, like, I don't know, but it's weird because it's like it's being like blown out of proportions. Like, I can definitely say that while people still don't see trafficking for what it is or care about, especially higher level, it's definitely being used as a fear-mongering tactic. It's also being used as like a morality scale. Like, well, I mean, I'm not doing that to my kids, so even though I'm still letting other people hurt them, or I'm doing this, and that to them, it doesn't matter. And it's also being used as like, it's definitely being used as like a fear-mongering type thing. It's like people still don't really care or believe it, but it's still being used to like push the minor crisis and blow it out of the water, as I call it. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And it's actually, and one of the most annoying things about it is that people are focusing on this certain age range that they really don't care about either. But that doesn't negate the fact that a lot of the main people you hear about, like, of course, I mean, there's babies and stuff in like SRA / satanic ritual abuse, but it's like the main people you hear about that are harmed, that are the main stories that you've been allowed to hear about, weren't people who were below the age of consent anyways. And I don't even know why people negate that to satanic ritual abuse, sacrifices, or trafficking in general, because if you're being trafficked, you're not consenting in any way, either way. You're just being trafficked. And it's funny how this is now being used to push the digital ID. In fact, I remember back when I was in a runaway support group and other abuse support groups, even before escaping, I'm pretty sure, there were like kids on there talking about how they weren't able to get a burner phone before running away, because in their country they have to have an ID to even use a phone, because you have to have an ID and you have to do something with that at the store, and something with uploading something somewhere to even get a SIMS card to work. So there's places where they already had the digital ID. And I know, like, I think it was in Australia or New Zealand, I don't know, one of those places where however long ago they banned people under 16 from the internet, because generally it used to be more widely recognized anyways that you're a young man or woman by 13 to 16 anyhow, but especially 15 to 16. And I know I always mention how it used to be like in the US, people are dropping out of high school at 14 to work in factories and buy homes and stuff, but now laws have changed more and more, and people are so infantilized, which isn't a good thing, it's an abuse tactic, to where they can't do anything. But yeah, that's also why that chomo psychologist that I talked about, or well, I showed a screenshot of in that video, like, that was probably a year ago. I think that's before the whole island thing had even came back out and people started to somewhat pretend to believe and care. Before that, there was that psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever that made that video talking about some Epstein is not a pedo, because a pedo is somebody who's attracted to people who haven't started puberty yet. And he's talking about the fact that most stuff that came out actually was the people who were 14 and 15 plus. But it's not true that he's not a pedo. In fact, I don't even like how people try to like even misconstrue the horrors of trafficking, kidnapping, high level satanic ritual abuse with um with age and consent and who they feel really deserves what and who's supposed to be more innocent. And oh no, I didn't even mean to say that. I more something to say. I don't even like they try to like act like that has anything to do with any type of attraction anyways. Like, I mean, yeah, there's definitely different paraphilias involved in like ritual abuse and stuff, but generally being attracted to somebody and using and sacrificing them or using them for whatever ritual or whatever, or just abusing people, or they're different things anyways. I feel like people even constantly bringing up like all the age weird stuff, the weird minor stuff, and the weird supposed quote unquote pedo stuff, or really any quote unquote sexuality is just being used to misconstrue the situation and make it about everything but what it's about, which is abuse and rituals. Because I mean, I think about it as someone who's like surrounded by like a lot of sexual predators and chomos and serial rapists like every day. Like, I mean, let's be realistic. Some of these, I mean, a lot of them are, but some of these people aren't even necessarily attracted to like kids or whatever. They're just trying to get with whoever they feel like they can get with and they can manipulate and use, to be honest. It's like it's a big power dynamic and abuse addiction thing with it. And then it was another thing with that. It was something else. And like I said, all of it and all these weird social justice warrior, fake savior, fake I care YouTube channels and stuff that are popping up now talking about the quote unquote children and the kids and this, that, and the essay this. All of it is really doing reverse psychology. Because like I said before, for one, people seem to not know the difference between a legal adult and what that means, and age of consent, and age of majority, which is actually, age of majority is still 17 in some states, but in others it's 21. And in some countries, age of majority is 21. But anywho, like, what people are constantly doing when they mention what I like to call the minor crisis and everything that revolves around that, all they're really doing is saying that the issue is that people are dating and being friends with, because yes, people are like you can't be friends with people anymore. Dating and being friends with people under 18 once you turn 18. And it's really also part of like American insanity and moral crisis, because like one of the things about the moral crisis is that people are so far from the original laws of the creator and the spiritual laws and all that anyways, to where they're misconstruing stuff, making up stuff, blowing stuff out of proportions, which is a big thing with the gerontophile agenda. And people making comments like for example, the video where I go over the whole thing with the 13-year-old that was told that he's a pedo and doesn't deserve rights and deserves to be unalive because he's dating a 12-year-old, stuff like that. People are, and like another big thing with it is that people are like throwing around this word that nobody really seems to know the actual definition of either. But anywho, what was I saying? Oh yeah, but yeah, people are just like pushing this idea that, well, the issue is that they're under 18, so of course what are they going to do for the order out of chaos in the Hegelian dialect? They cause an issue and then get people to beg for the result that the elites wanted in the first place, the quote-unquote elites. And that really just pretty much people that are social justice warriors talking about minor this, minor that, under 18, under 18 that. All they're really doing is saying make the age of consent lower, which if it's already 14 to 16 and they make it lower, then I mean, I don't even really think it matters. I don't even think age of consent should exist. It doesn't matter because youth have no rights and nobody cares about the youth. And as long as somebody's your parent, especially, or your family member, they can do whatever they want to you. Nothing actually matters unless people actually do something about abuse. That's one of the funny things about it. You can run around talking about minor this and minor that. And like I've always said, the only people that actually really get charged and get any repercussions from things like the age of consent laws and the minor crisis are kids.